Yeah. Well, I'd love to start, and maybe Raj, we can have you start this time. What do you think no longer holds true as far as our ideas about adult retail? And what has really shifted maybe in consumer behavior most significantly that's impacting where we are now as we head into 2026?
So it's a very interesting question. I put a lot of thought into it because for the last 13 years, I'm online only. I'm the reason why retailers are not happy. So I think that's why I'm put on the last side of this table. But my previous year's experience has always been in retail, and I have a lot of friends who are in retail, and I understand what's changed in 2026 is primarily two things. Foot traffic does not equal conversions. Maybe it used to, now I don't think so. And second, the price of a product is not the only reason for conversion. You may face that earlier on where price was the differentiator for the products. But now, if you, yeah, I think a consumer is looking to make a purchase with two mindset, price and speed of delivery. I understand this price at a retail store may be a little higher than online, but what you have is the delivery. You can give it right then in their hand. You have the experience, you have the expertise, which very well make up for the price. So if you're able to deliver this message in the right way, you have a win. And in 2026, don't be worried that price is the only reason you're not gonna get conversion. And don't just be hoping that foot traffic equals to conversion. So you got to work on both sides of the triangle to make it a full circle.
Nice. Does anyone want to piggyback on that? We don't have to go down the line.
I'm happy to jump in.
Sure.
Yeah. I kind of completely agree with everything that you've said. Everything I do is trying to get the consumer to come through the websites. And the biggest change that we're noticing, particularly with retailers, is number one, the marketing funnel doesn't exist like it did this time last year. AI has changed everything. You know, normally a consumer would go to Google, they'd type in what's the best sex toy to buy. They get a whole list on the first page of Google of like men's health articles, women's health articles. They click through, they'll find out what are the best toys, and they'll get a nice little link that will come through to a retailer. But AI summaries have changed all of that. The first page of Google now, you're starting to see Reddit threads popping up instead. You're giving consumers aren't clicking any longer. Over the past 12 months, clicks are down 60%. 60%. So the traffic is falling. So conversion is more important than ever right now. But what we're really noticing is trust is more important and authenticity. People don't come through to a retailer to just buy a toy. They can go directly to the brand themselves. And a lot of people, they're going through to the brand. So what retailers, what we're noticing is they need to provide something extra. And education is one of the keys here. We're noticing that sex educators that are on websites that are talking about the products on the product page, doing demonstrations. This is really helping with the conversion rates for retailers. So everything that we're noticing now is forget the marketing funnel. Think about this omni-channel approach and think about essentially a big web. Where are the consumers? Where are they actually finding out about the products? And how are they going to come through to your website? For us, we realize with retailers, it's about showing your expertise. It's about letting the AI summaries know that not just are you selling a product, you are providing valuable information to the consumer as well too. You're giving them something special when they come through. You're building a community on your website. So for us, that's the biggest change that we're noticing.
I'd like to add a couple of things. I think our consumers are, some of them are still like, a vibrator is going to make my service too sensitive. You know, we've still got people like, my husband will never let me use a sex toy. We've got that kind of lagging crowd. We have some massive early adopters who are like, what's the toy for neurodivergent sex? I've got penile atrophy. What do I do to reverse it? Do you have any quantified intimacy products? Like, it's become is we move from life stages into cohorts with problem solution needs that need to be addressed. So that combined with, you know, the consumers really looking for something beyond speeds and feeds, with the manufacturers still stuck in e-commerce pages that look like they were built a decade ago. The retailers have an opportunity to close that gap, but they're so competitive with direct sales, Amazon, et cetera, that it takes really deeply understanding the consumer psyche to be able to lend the level of knowledge that's going to be required for the customer who comes in with a problem, or the customer who's looking for an opportunity. Because I also think that a really big opportunity, probably the one that I am most excited about, is what I would call agentic sex tech, adaptive toys, and remote play. And, you know, I went to a dinner party recently, a fancy dinner party, and every person who had introduced themselves around the table had, you know, I live in Bali part-time, so I live in Dubai, and I have a little flat in London. And I'm like, I know you're fucking up people in all these places. Like, how are you managing all this? It's really changing and becoming considerably more complex to meet the customer where they are and understand if they're looking for opportunity or they're solving pain.
And also just to finish the question about sex tech, I know that for many retailers, it's still kind of something uncharted territory, sex tech, something that is interactive and interacts with the whole video or the art. But if you look at statistics, 1 in 3 men in the United States by the end of 2025 who owned a VR headset was already watching VR 4 months per week. And some people already have this headsets, let's say, for metaverse or for gaming, right? So when you educate them about the technology that allows to sync your toy to that video, of course, they probably is going to be at least very interested in experiencing it for the first time. But also, in addition to that, I'd like to add that we also need to take into consideration the reality of the economy and recession economy.
Yeah.
And we cannot rely on the same foot traffic as in 2021, 2022. We cannot compare targets this year to target of the last year that was based on the target of 2021, when so much money was injected into economy, which caused inflation. And of course, you have the interest rates going up, the consumer spending slows down, and all of these customers, they feel it in their own pocket like any of us. So retailers have to have a goal, not just to sell it to people who come to the store, but to find new customers, to reach those new customers. Especially in the United States, you are still the biggest economy of the world. You are still the biggest GDP. You are still the biggest society of consumption, right? But some stores might have like 5 people coming to the store like per day, right? And again, those stores don't usually have billboards or social media or anything because they're just comfortable. They're comfortable because they've been historically making good money. But now it's time to get more creative and have a goal of how many new customers we want to attract monthly, quarterly, and yearly, both online and offline.
I'd love to pose this question because I think we're kind of naturally gravitating in this direction. And I'd love for someone who hasn't spoken yet maybe to jump in first on this. So we have this buzzword actually in the description of the panel, omnichannel. I've heard it mentioned already once. And this idea of like gathering new customers. So what does an omni-channel approach actually look like maybe for your particular business or where you've seen success, given the constraints that the adult industry faces? How do you choose the channels where you're going to put your efforts?
I'll go.
Sure.
So we've actually, because we're mainly retail, we've actually had kind of a deep dive into the e-commerce and the omnichannel environment. Google is really only part of it, like TikTok, Instagram, but like you really have to be out in everything. And people really want to like connect to someone now. Like if you have a spokesperson talking about that, or not a spokesperson, but like an influencer, like the influencer community is huge right now. If people can put a face to a product, they're more, that's gonna kind of like steer them into that direction, regardless of, like you said, the cost. It's really, they want to connect the face to a product with somebody that they want to trust talking about it. So you really have to be on all platforms as far as that goes. Even with the restrictions, you kind of have to find your way around it.
Yeah, I think too, adding on to that, like something that for our brand, and we are a little bit different because we're founded by a doctor. So we do naturally have that built-in authority figure. But I think for us, thinking omnichannel is, we started out as D2C only because back then, and still even today, people aren't super comfortable buying sex toys, especially anal care. And so we said, well, D2C makes the most sense. It's kind of a blush product. But then, you know, you also have the urgency. There are some products that maybe you don't feel comfortable buying in store, but then other products have more of a, they're like as you need it. So for that, it was like, okay, how do we focus on things that then like, hey, I forgot this, I need to run into a store locally to buy it. And then also thinking of like maybe untraditional avenues like doctor's practices for some toys, for some products. We've actually seen like a weird, like there was that whole like live shopping that is still very popular, but we're finding it now coming in for our types of projects. And those becoming like, to me, an HSN QVC model seems so silly. That's just not how I shop, but for a lot of our retail partners who are now getting into it, they're finding like really, really good success because you're, you know, when we're penny pinching, when we're looking at our dollars more, it's not just about buying like cheap product, it's about buying product that has like high quality, that has high values, that I can use more often. And that's where we're seeing that a lot of people are turning towards that. They're not buying less. They're just making sure that what they're buying is something that they need and that will last.
I don't think that.
Yeah. Turn the mic on. Fine. Yeah, so one thing that I just wanted to mention is we're talking a lot about customer acquisition here, and one of the things that I really just want to touch on is retention, right? Customer retention of the customers that you already have. You have to nurture those relationships. And especially with the rise of like marketplaces using things like Amazon, right? Which is a great revenue channel. But the other thing is it does place kind of a distance between you and the customer. They're not having a one-on-one interaction with your brand other than your product, right? And so really leveraging those retention channels, like things like loyalty programs, for example, really nurturing the customers you already have and giving them all of those things that we want to provide to customers we're trying to acquire, to educate them, to give them more in-depth information than they already received when they did buy from Marketplace. Being able to have those customers be deeply paid attention to as well, because they're already there for you. And so leading into own channels, they do so much work for us, right? Like doing segmentation in your email programs. If you have an email program, you know, letting people do things like surveys that are going to help you segment into the kind of product that they're looking for, their experience level, what, you know, what their body is telling them that they want. And that's something that I really try to focus on as well, because acquisition is important, but if you don't have customers to hold on to, then what do you have? So that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, on top of that too, like whenever we talk about omnichannel, you know, we think about, you know, the funnel is gone or it's fractured now, and it's almost like a big web. We have people are consuming content constantly. We're constantly on our phones. We're constantly scrolling. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. If we ask a question into Google, we end up on Reddit, which is where people actually have real conversations and they're asking real questions. And there's a real opportunity for retailers to get in there. We can have sex educators going in and just providing real answers as opposed to some of the dodgy answers we can actually see there. Another big thing we're noticing is AI is everywhere. There's so much paid content out there as well too. And the consumer wants real content, wants real people. They want to see the shop owners on TikTok actually talking about the products. They want to see whenever they go onto the website, you've got video content there, you can have user-generated content, that you've got, not just one-off partnerships, that you're actually working on long-term partnerships with real people that have real values that match the values of your brand. Like for me, this is the most important thing about omnichannel. While yes, it is about being everywhere, but a lot of the time we don't have a lot of the resources to be everywhere. So it's more figuring out who exactly is your customer, where exactly are they, and investing in those channels, and then kind of really growing authentic, providing credible, authentic kind of advice for them. Essentially, that's the key to marketing right now, and that's what we're seeing is working most effectively for retailers, particularly retailers that are online. On top of that, when it comes to omnichannel, we're really starting to see a big shift towards grassroots marketing now as well. People are fed up with all the fake content online. They want to see brands, they want to see retailers that are supporting local community initiatives, that are, really getting out there into the community, that are running panel talks inside their stores. And I think over the next year, we're going to see a big shift towards this.
Yeah, does anyone here have an example perhaps of going in really strongly on one channel versus kind of spreading out your initiatives across channels?
Hi. So I have a little different opinion, though I do align a lot with what you said. By the way, I like your accent, Kathryn. I think omni-channel for a retailer is different than what an omni-channel would be for a brand, right, or a manufacturer. Since this panel is about retailers, omni-channel is probably not about being everywhere, but I think it's more about being connected and in sync anywhere you are. So, like to your question, a retailer, if you put myself in the shoes of a retailer, I understand the radius of my customer is maybe 5 miles to my store, unless I'm in a New York Fifth Ave, a Museum of Sex, and I've got a lot of foot traffic, so that's a different scenario. But most retailers, their radius is 5 to 10 miles. So if they have to go where the customers are, one, of course, your storefront, your signage, your display. You have the traditional methods of marketing, if it's allowed, still the mailers. But even if you're incorporating social media, yes, you should have the content that's coming because the social media algorithm also shows you content which is localized. So there's a chance if somebody was talking, oh, hey, I gotta get a vibrator, and your Instagram heard it. So next time it's gonna show you a video about a vibrator. It's probably from one of the local area stores. Have a great presence on review sites, Google Maps. And I'm telling from my own experience, if I'm going shopping, Google Maps is one place I'm gonna go, even though I know there's gonna be a lot of not organic reviews, but you get a good feel. Other places where people are talking Reddit, if I'm going to a retailer store, I probably won't have time to look up on Reddit. If I'm online shopping, Reddit influences the results I see on Google or ChatGPT. But if I'm a local customer walking to a retail store, how to get to my attention is either through that local social marketing, presence in all of the local platforms like Google Maps, etc. Maybe a Yelp, Yelp listing is also great. I know it's for restaurants, but they have for other stores as well. And have the same information, same brand, retail personality, persona everywhere. Even if your founders are talking about it, they're giving a story, but if a customer calls the store and speaks to Steven, and he's talking a different kind of story, then there's a disconnect. So narrow down your region and go full on in that and consider that as your only channel for retailers.
Just to add, as an old warrior who visited a lot of stores all over the country, I have noticed a very interesting thing about consistency of this omnichannel, right? Because some stores, for example, they would have a corporate name, and then they would have 10 stores under different names. So the customer would never figure out that this belongs to the same business because there is no consistency in the messaging. One store is more like male-oriented, another store is more like couple-friendly, and then you go to the website and it's something completely different from everything that you visited. So I think this idea of building your message based on your branding and the components of your brand, this is the step number one, right? So what is your message? What is your positioning? What is your identity? What is your brand story? Because many of retailers have such a fascinating stories about how they open this business and how they run this business with their spouse or how they build community around their shop. But you only hear about it when you are at the showroom and have a drink with them. But it's never on the website. It's never listed anywhere and it's not a component of their brand for some reason. But it would have become so much stronger if we were starting building this website from this brand story.
And I'd like to add something and leverage off of what a few people have said. I have a very process-oriented mind, and one of the things that I think is a great opportunity, I've been in advertising and media my whole life, and I understand the importance of impression marketing. But not branding necessarily. I think we are moving, like what Kathryn was saying, moving into experiential and authentic types of things. I'll use an example. I'll use an example from Kate's company of the Luxus, the new toy that is the Luxus. It's a couple's love-making toy that has a vibe for her clitoris and penis ring that is a proximity sensor so that when they're making love, it kind of increases the sensation as he's going in and out of her. That's a really interesting product that a brand like Luxus Kiiroo could take a group of sex educators, have them all do social media consistently over a 6-month program, that then the retailers are very aware of this program, and all of the social media is not just the sexpert and the brand, but it's collab with the local retailers. So that work gets pushed to their social media strategies. They also could have in-store videos that showcase like why you want to toggle the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system and get a little sciencey and talk about the experiences and invite those experts to do couples workshops and showcasing the top 5 couples toys, things like that, where it's longer term, it's a more thought through strategy. It integrates manufacturer with sexpert with retailer in a consistent drip system so that you're getting a lot of impressions across the marketplace over time. I think that this omni-channel issue is going to continue to just be a grunt for all of us. Like, we're just the one-armed paper hanger trying to get it all done everywhere all the time. It's killing us. We have to take a step up to the next level with some strategic executions that integrate the entire ecosystem so that consumer, if I need look, that thing I heard about 3 times. I talked to my husband and he's down to do it. I'm going to get it. Now, where they buy it? With affiliate tracking, disaster, GDPR, cookie banners, retail versus direct to consumer. I mean, I don't have an answer for any of it. We just got to do what we can do to drive sales through to consumers together more collectively to rise the tide. I think that's really where we are now.
The word that's coming to mind as you all are talking is, how do we create synergy? So I'm really interested in spaces or initiatives where you've found perhaps there's the synergy between the in-store and the online experience, or even just the synergy between the messaging and then the embodied experience that the consumer has. And you know, if there's some fails that anybody wants to share, that's fine.
So we've definitely at Fascinations, we have rolled out our pickup in store because during COVID, that was the hottest thing. They were like, why can we order and pick up? How do we order and pick up? We don't have to come in. So that's definitely been, we weren't really fully understanding the need for it. So definitely really good that we rolled that out. And then kind of letting the economy talk, we really focused on like, is it the promotions that are bringing the customers in, or like what is really like, what's bringing that online customer in store type situation? And really it's just connecting, kind of going back to what everybody said, it's connecting a face to something. Like I have customers that they'll bypass all the battery operated, cheaper, discounted toys. And because there's a face that they trust or somebody that they've seen speak about experiences or something, like they're willing to spend that extra money. So yeah, going back to like connecting the face to it. But yeah, pick up in store, like that was something, that connection between like people are shopping online, but they still want the in-store experience. So it's kind of happy to want to share.
Yeah, one of the things that we noticed as well too is a lot of retailers have excellent like in-store staff. They're great educators. People come in with genuine personal problems. They're discussing it with the store staff, and it's working. But a lot of the times it's not translating across. The story's not the same whenever it gets onto the website. A lot of the times we notice that retailers will use generic product descriptions on their product pages. They're literally just taking a product description that the brand gave them. They're using the same images that the brand has given them, and they lose that brand story whenever it gets down to the actual point of sale on the website. So it's really important to make sure that your brand story is consistent, not just across your social channels and in your store and on your website and your newsletter, but also that you are putting the effort into that final point of sale as well too, and then it represents your brand and that you're educating people there as well. You can have videos of experts explaining more about the product. Your in-store team can do little videos. They can be shared across your social channels. They can be shared out in your newsletters. Anytime you get some good PR coverage, it can be put up on your product page. It can be put out in your newsletters and shared across your social too. So for me, it's making sure that you're using your channels, that you're telling the same story across all of your channels, and that most importantly, your own channel, your house, as if you want to say, like when people come through your website, they're coming through to your home, making sure that it is really telling the story that the team of the stores are telling as well too.
I think also to that point, like I was just telling you, and like we pride ourselves on creating all this content that's readily available to our retail partners. But funnily enough, like to your point, like we have some retail partners that take the extra time to re-photograph all of our products that are so consistent with their brand. And then they actually also introduce some photography that they just swipe from us. And the ones that are in their own photography perform better. Because I think it's that consistent, because if you're scrolling through hundreds of products and you see all these ones that look the same, and then like a few that are like, oh, this is clearly not like from this store, like it does tell like very different story.
So the last thing that I was just thinking about too is just that synergy between retail and D2C is often, retail can be the confidence transfer and D2C can be the relationship builder. There's a way that you can combine those two. And, there's a lot of people that do walk into sex toy stores and they don't know if they're going to buy something, right? And they may need to be asking you questions, general questions about sex toys that are going to help guide them when they go to your D2C store, right? And having, like you said, the face to the name, right? Having someone in front of you, even if you have like a live chat on your website, which is great, by the way. So really, it's something that a lot of websites really like benefit from. Having a person in front of you is very different. And even that alone can just make people feel confident in your store and being able to go onto your website and feel more comfortable with the people that they're benefiting, right? And understanding what your mission is firsthand when they're in front of you. So just the synergy between retail and D2C, even if, one will always do better than the other for you, right? But you can always have them work together. And even if someone walks out of your store without making a purchase, you're not gonna convert everywhere, right? Like, that's not gonna happen. I mean, I hope it does. I hope that everybody converts everywhere. But, you know, it's just, those two things can work together, and you can hold their hand through their experiences from the store or from your GC space as well.
I'd like to add one more thing too. Now, I have a bias because I've been a newsletter marketer for 20+ years. That's the basic way that I generate my revenue is I send out my newsletters 5 days a week. And I have a number of different newsletters. I've got Personal Life Media, Better Lover, the 20, I've got 2 Substacks. I am an email marketer. So obviously I have a bias, but I'll tell you something. When I tell good stories, when I provide solutions, when I generate opportunities, I consider myself an inspirational brand. And that's what I'm trying to do all the time with every story I tell. And every story I tell is an opportunity to purchase from me. And I have people who have been on my list for 20 years. I have customers who I get an email from their child saying, my parent has passed on. And I'm like, I knew that, right? And so that repeat relationship where they're opening up every story I send out, every opportunity to buy, that's how I've supported myself and 20 people in my company for decades. Email marketing is not dead. And if I had local market, luckily I'm a mass market brand, which is great. I don't have to worry about local market so much. But if I were local market, that would be my #1 strategy. We'd be getting everybody's email address and telling stories about the products and the opportunities that are created using them. And I would mail 3-4 days a week. And I would do that market segmentation. I think you talked about that, Ellie, right? Market segmentation, do your quizzes and things like that. Like that is brand zero for revenue generation right there. All the other stuff is frosting on the cake to email marketing to this day to me.
Yeah, I mean, and I think when thinking about synergy, you've got to really kind of lean into what your customers are telling you. You know, when I started at Magic One a few years ago, all the retailers were like, oh, everyone is coming into the stores and they're just buying online. And so it's like, okay, if we see the trends, how do we work with them rather than working against them? You're not going to shift the consumer behavior, right? So what came out of that for us is these little like QR codes that meet that need in the store for the customers to shop around online. But that QR code takes you to a review site. And all the information it has there is just positive reviews and press write-ups about all of the Magic Wand models. You can't shop on that site, but now you've met the need. You've fed the urge that person has as far as like their curiosity about the product. And then hopefully you're helping to convert the sale in the store. So figuring out like when you see the issues presenting themselves or the blocks within your sales channel, how can I work with this rather than working against it? You're never going to shift the tide, right? So I'm really curious to hear how you all decide which growth initiatives to invest in. Because we have time constraints, we have budget constraints, we have staffing constraints. So how do you go through that process of deciding how to allocate your resources for growth specifically?
They're all.
It's the two ends are.
It's like, see. Yeah, that is a thing.
So how do you choose your growth initiatives? How do you decide how you're gonna allocate your precious resources?
So, I mean, we definitely look to see like what has performed well in the past. Like we want to repeat patterns, kind of keep up with like the trends and stuff like that. But honestly, kind of like risk before reward. Like this year, we're kind of like risking on ourselves and we're putting ourselves on the Call Her Daddy podcast. So we're really hoping to see like a good turnaround. I mean, you just kind of have to put yourself out there. Like you have to risk it and risk it. Like obviously you want to look at your budgets and allocations and do what works with you, but you also have to try new things as a retailer.
I just have one thing that I wanted to say really quick is, thinking about the growth aspect of this and thinking about revenue and all of that. One of the things that I focus on in my prep right now for having my products manufactured is the overlap of trust and revenue here. Like, our customers need to trust us, right? And having things that are going to compound those two things are what we, for example, having educational classes, right? Having something where people are gonna come in, they'll maybe take a cover, but they're gonna learn and they're gonna walk away with your brand, right? Like, they're walking away with that trust that you have educators here that are giving you valid information, and being able to have that overlap into a revenue driver. So I honestly, a lot of my growth initiatives are based in emotional navigation for my customers, and just focusing on that aspect of it as well. Where do our customers need to be supported that we haven't supported them in the past as well? Yeah.
After you, Kate.
All right, so I think first of all, we have to ask ourselves the question, is this initiative gonna benefit long term, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? And the same goes for cuts that we make. It should not be like emotional decisions, right? But if it's online, of course, doing everything to make Google's life you, whether it's backlinks, sale, but when it's so I'll let you take that part, but in terms of brick and mortar, investing in your staff, investing in motivating your staff, investing in educating your staff, I think is a top priority, because if your customers didn't need this conversation, if they didn't need to talk to the salesperson like they talk to an old friend, they would have bought it from Amazon for cheaper, right? So meaning we have to make sure that people who are on the sales floor, who are talking to your customers, know exactly what they're talking about. They can make them feel relaxed. They can make them feel safe and welcome. So I think there is never like a limit to how good it can get. You can have different programs. You can have spiffs. You can reach out to manufacturers. You can reach out to your vendors to put together a calendar plan for the entire year and just have like each month or I don't know, like every 3 weeks. But you will see how the profits grow like dramatically.
Raj, you wanna jump in on this?
So I think we're all kind of converging to the idea of what's going to work for the retailers. And we also mentioned about Amazon. So somewhere I read that Amazon, the reason why Amazon is successful is because it's solved for two things: price and speed of delivery. However, when a customer is walking into the store, no Amazon's going to help it with the speed of delivery. The product is right in front of them. So this is the case for all retailers. Nothing can replicate human connection. So the whole conversation about education, brands, founders storyline, and your sales staff incorporating your information and background with the customers is always going to be the winning card in each instance you are interacting with the customer. To summarize, I think every retailer, if they have limited energy and never decide what they have to focus on, you still have to think global, but act local. So you could fascinate, I want to have the website that has the large amount of traffic, I have a social media following with influencers, collab, this and that. But what's going to matter is your 5 to 7 mile radius, the customers that are in that area, and what will connect with them. So what, even with omnichannel, as we said, be connected. Everything should be in sync. Whatever your brand represents should be in sync. So when that opportunity arrives, the customer gets converted from the same story that they originally got interested in.
Just so we can stay on time, and that Susan, maybe you can start with this last one. What do you see as the biggest opportunity in this coming, let's just say, a year, that adult retailers have that say the Amazons or the big box stores really can't leverage? Like, what are those opportunities?
Yeah. I'm gonna just say one short thing from the last question, which is I think about my business as traffic and conversion. That's what I'm focused on. I'm always focused on where am I getting my traffic and how do I get more traffic and how do I improve my conversion. So from a data-driven business, I'm looking at my analytics, I'm looking at sources of traffic, and I'm looking at conversion optimization, I'm looking at revenue and earnings per click. That's my metrics. I don't know, what yours would necessarily be, or, average order value of a customer who comes in the store, what have you. But that's the lens through which I look at everything. I trim what isn't there, and I put effort into what's working, and it's constantly changing. So I think that's important. The second thing is that I think the biggest opportunities are to do explainer and erotic adventure content experiences for consumers. So understanding that we have people who think about themselves as being in perimenopause, or who think about themselves with erectile dysfunction, or who think about penis problems. My God, that's a giant opportunity. If you don't know everything about vacuum erection devices in your stores right now, like that's right there could add 20% more revenue in your business right now. And then I would say definitely sex tech. The products are amazing. The apps, consumers need to see how the apps work. You need to tell them stories about what fun they're going to have with the products. That's really what I think will move the needle, is understanding the cohorts who you're talking to in your market and how you can meet them with erotic adventure.
I also think about this all the time, what you were mentioning about how your consumer's body is going to change over the time that they're with you. Like, we don't talk about that all the time. I'm a trans person. I've done physical transition. I've been out for 20 years. However, I'm also in perimenopause. And some people have mobility changes, right? Like, some people do develop ED, or changes in the way that they have an erection, it changes in the way that they have an orgasm, all of these things, right? And that's one of the things that I really, really try to focus on, is when I'm thinking of a toy, I'm thinking about how is this going to benefit my customer emotionally and functionally, right? How can I make something that feels really good and also serves a purpose that might alleviate something that makes them feel uncomfortable in the bedroom? So for me, what that means is designing toys that are applicable to more than just one specific kind of body or one specific kind of body shape, that can live with my customer from the time they buy it until they're not using it anymore. I want to have a toy that someone can buy and then physically change their body somehow and be like, great, I still have tried and true. It's still here with me. And also, speaking about opportunity, this is a little bit more nuanced than marketing opportunities and some of the stuff that we're talking about here that's a little bit more business focused. But binary merchandising in our industry is something that has been not, for me, my personal preference, not moving as fast as maybe it could. One of the things that I love to talk about is just talking about the kind of language that you use. It's very simple. There's simple changes that you can make to language. Now, sometimes you need to do a little research to figure out what's going to be the right fit for your customer. But being able to, have someone, if you're doing brick and mortar, have somebody walk into a store and not see a his and her. I've walked into countless sex toy shops and I've looked around and gone, damn, I feel like shit. I'm getting out of here. Sorry, excuse me. It's not very professional. I'll say it that way, but it's true. And having a space where someone can come in, whether that be D2C or retail, and not feel like someone is making assumptions about their body type or what they want, is what people need. The gender expansive community is begging for this. We are, not only in the sense of like products provided for us and focused on us, but also in employment in the industry and things like that. That's a huge opportunity too. Like, if you really want to know what we need, bring those people into your boardrooms. And I think that's a huge opportunity for so many people. Being able to, why would you not want that growth of a whole new community of people that are begging for support and want to have visibility in this industry, because we deserve it as much as anybody else. And being able to design something, for example, one of the things that I've designed like a bolo style, what we call like a bolo pop ring, right? But making an adjustment there that can, thank you, a lasso, making it a little bit easier for someone like me, that has been on testosterone, my body has changed, and I want to give it the effect of having an erection with a body that I may not have right now, right? Having something that I can assist in the gender dysphoria and the thoughts about my body that I have during sex that ruin it for me. Being able to take something that also feels good and makes me feel more affirmed is what's going to keep me moving in my own journey with my own body. So I know it's kind of long-winded, but I just wanted to say that it's a huge opportunity. Like, there's a huge community of people that really need to be recognized here in these spaces. And so just, you know, taking a little bit more time to think and triage your customer a little more delicately, I think is a huge opportunity for people that have in person, and then also how you do your category merchandising on your website too. Just the way that you categorize your toys and things like that can be very impactful for someone's experience.
I think actually on that point as well too, whenever it comes to any content marketing that independent retailers are doing, you know, it's very important that if you're writing blogs or if you're gonna write a blog about the best toys for trans body, get a trans writer to come in and actually write it, you know, don't have some anonymous person that hasn't lived that real experience and keep going on about it. But right now, authenticity is the most important thing. And you've got to live it on your website, you've got to live it in your stores as well. So across your socials, you know, if you're gonna promote the product for perimenopause, make sure that it's somebody that's actually experiencing that can talk about it, and yeah, really get out there into the community, get working with all of the local sex educators and build that grassroots community.
I know folks have to get to their meeting, so I'd love one more comment on the opportunities that this year presents. And then if anybody has questions, obviously, please feel free to come up and ask. Wrap up.
There's one thing to add. I feel like it's nothing monumental, but like when I think of all the stores that I've had to go to for research, I almost feel like sex stores, a lot of stores like forget that it is still a retail experience. If that makes sense. Like I walk into some stores and I'm like, I'd actually rather go to Amazon because I didn't have to have this awkward interaction with someone that it was totally worthless. And then you go to like, you don't experience that in clothing and beauty, but I finally experience that a lot. Like it's kind of awkward. Like you're here for your essentials. You don't want to talk to anyone. And maybe that is the point of the store. But the ones that we at least find the most success with are the ones that take the time to take me up on the offer to educate their staff, that look at our resources, that make the customer feel like, okay, I'm here for a shopping experience that I couldn't have gotten online, that I couldn't have gotten on Amazon. And I feel like that's such a minor thing. And I get like there's high turnover, or there might be, or staffing issues, but even just like that little bit of like knowing what you're selling, like, and not making it uncomfortable makes a big difference for brick and mortar.
As brick and mortar, we definitely pride ourselves in that customer connection. Kind of just to like point out, like with adult products expanding to like Walmart and Target and stuff last year, like we're really priding ourselves on making sure that we're answering those uncomfortable questions in the most comfortable way possible. Like we want that customer to come back and feel comfortable telling us about their food experience.
Otherwise, like I'll just go to Amazon.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So retail, brick and mortar, we very much still pride ourselves in that customer service aspect, because you're never gonna get that.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for sharing.
Thank you so much.
With us. If we can give our hand off. And like I said, I don't think we have time for any group questions, but please feel free to come up and ask any burning questions you have.
And I can always take a. Is that a point?